I'm curious, like when we look at like nutrition timing, what's your opinion on nutrition timings? I know for me, it's changed a lot since, I was a power lifter in my early 20s. So I was, eating every 2 hours, and I'm not a big guy. So I'm 5'7". I was weighing it at 220 and 8% body fat. And, now I'm 160, but my timing is I was 2 hours before, I'm 3 hours now. How do you feel about nutrition timing? Does it matter that much? Or how do you look at that when you look at meal timing?
One of the first books I read, or one of the first guys I follow when I really dive deeper into nutrition, was Dr. Eric Helms. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
I'm not familiar. No, I'll have to check him out.
Yeah, great guy, very smart. And he had that nutrition pyramid that almost every fitness coach uses, where at the bottom there's like adherence, how much you adhere to the plan, calories, macros, micros, and like meal timing is right at the top with supplements. So very low priority. And for years, kind of treated it like that. Low priority, let's neglect it. And everyone, including myself, tends to focus on quantity. How much you eat, calories in, calories out, any macros, and so on. And eventually I realized, okay, the meal timing may have less of an impact directly, which is true, but indirectly, it has a massive impact. So when you eat, when you eat will have a massive impact on how much you eat and even what you eat. So for example, they did a study, two groups, they split them up in two groups. I think 500 calories they gave to each group. Group one had cereals with some milk for breakfast, 8 a.m. And group two had steak and eggs, also at 8 a.m. While group one with the cereals, they got hungry again at 10 and they wanted to snack and eat something. And group two with the steak, they got hungry at 2 p.m. So
wow.
4 hours later, same calories. So yes, calories matter. They're more important in the big scheme, but when you eat something will have an impact when you want to eat again, how much you want to eat of it. So very, very important when it comes to meal timing. And we like
before we get off of that, I do want to ask you one question there, because that makes me think about it. And maybe I'm looking too far into it, but when you look at the steak and eggs and the amount of time that took to burn off, is that due to fat content, protein content, or what's the thing that's causing to feed the body longer?
It's not one thing. There are like two primary mechanisms. One is the protein. So higher protein takes longer to digest, takes more stomach acid, keeps you full. Compared to mainly those carbs that you had. And number two, the steak and eggs are pretty much protein and fats, very little carbs, where the cereal's high carb. And what happens is when you eat carbs, your blood sugar goes up. And when your blood sugar goes up, your pancreas will release insulin to lower the sugar. And the curve will be sugar up, insulin is released, sugar down. When your blood sugar levels go down and they drop, then automatically you'll be craving, you'll be hungry, and you'll have an energy crash. So what do? Well, most people then grab a coffee and want a snack. And that's how you get into that snacking roller coaster, which, you start eating, snacking all the time, and you're never satisfied. You're always craving and hungry because you're on that blood sugar roller coaster all day long. And it's very hard then to not overeat. So you put yourself in a spot where you're overeating just because you picked the wrong time to eat that specific meal.
So, I guess I took you a little bit off track of where you were headed after talking about breakfast, or did we get there, or where were we going after that?
Yeah, we're kind of going in that direction there. Yeah. And when I say the wrong time, I prefer to move carbs to dinner. So really stay protein heavy with fats. And if we have carbs, a little bit of veggies or non-sweet fruits like an avocado, cucumber, for example, for breakfast and lunch if someone has breakfast, and then cycle those carbs to dinner. And that will keep your blood sugar levels stable. So mental energy, mental clarity, performance is very high during the day, and no cravings, no hunger. So you can eat less naturally, not by force, and you produce more at work because of that. Now, that's mainly for someone that's cutting. When you're bulking, you know that very, very well with 40 pounds?
220, man. I was like a walking muscle.
Yeah. So you know that very well. You want to eat more, then you basically have to reverse that and mix it up a little bit. But most people that probably listen to this, and most people in America, they need to lose weight. So
Yes.
we can keep it on that team there. Uh, so that's number one. And number two is when you work out, you want nutrients to be fast in and out of your blood. So I like to focus on having protein and carbs right before the workout. So let's say 45, 60 minutes prior and right after, and avoiding or minimizing fats around the workouts, because fats.
Now, does it matter what kind of carb you're having? Like more like a waxy maize or something like that? Or does it matter like what the carbohydrate is before?
Well, you always want good quality, but the carbs before, when we look at studies, don't matter that much, even though starches tend to give you the best results. So let's say rice or some potatoes. But after, the research is very clear that fructose doesn't help that much. So if you have fruits, they're typically 50% glucose, 50% fructose. They don't help that much for post-workout recovery, where glucose will be much more beneficial, and you have that in starches. Yeah, but basically, the more we can time the carbs and lean proteins around the workouts and avoid fats there, the more we optimize that cycles. And those are the two cycles I see. So are you lifting on this day? Yes or no? Good. Your nutrition will change slightly. Is it a non-lifting day? Okay, then it will be slightly different there. And that's how I like to approach meal timing, and then be more specific on those 2 days.